Okay, welcome everybody. When we finished the last update, we have been testing the tracks and points to make sure that all was secure and would run smoothly. And then we were going to turn our attention to the modelling itself, the scenery. Well, I managed to resist the temptation that we all face once the track's down, and that's it, the temptation to start laying buildings in place and building hills and fields and everything, and not putting the back scene in place first. Because if you do it that way around, when you come to put the back scene up, you can't reach it, you can't get at it, you have to start moving stuff and it becomes really messy. So I've managed to resist that temptation, as I say, and have moved on to the to installing the back scene. As with everything, I've tried to use up bits and pieces that I've left over from other layouts and stuff that doesn't cost too much or might be a bit free. So we're starting here with the old style Peco back scenes, which I've used on previous layouts, which I'm quite a fan of, and they blend together quite well, working layer upon layer. But having used them, I decided to also use some of the more modern photographic back scenes. Have to work at the join there to discover how to mask that. But the photographic back scenes I'm quite impressed with. These are a combination of ones I've purchased and also the couple that came free from Railway Modeller. Each January in the last couple of years they've given away a back scene. I've also purchased a Gaugemaster back scene photographic one, which I've used along the back here. Word of caution here for those of you who might be considering back scenes: the Gaugemaster one is glossy. Unusually, the Peco and everything else are matte, and you can see there is a reflection in the middle of the screen here where there is a slight change in level on the board behind the paper that's stuck on, and it's left a horrible shiny reflection. It's also very susceptible to loss of surface. There are some marks down there on the green where just small pieces of wallpaper paste on my fingers just immediately lifted the surface off from the back scene. So beware, Gaugemaster, if you're going down that road. Much prefer the Peco ones, which I think also, because they're matte, tend to be much more realistic. This is a combination of two of the Peco ones. And then as we come around to the final section, we're back to the old style ones that I had in stock, and so I've used them. It's never going to be perfect. There are mistakes and joins and difference in perspectives, but these will have to be worked at to cover up the blemishes, and that'll be fun to do using greenery and trees and various other techniques for masking cracks. The good thing about then is that when you can begin to look at planning the rest of the layout, you get out all your Metcalfe models and you realise how many you've managed to build in the time that the winter has passed and you've been working on the rest of the layout. So it's great fun to discover all the buildings that you've created. On the question of the Metcalfe kits, of which I'm an immense fan, I do have to say that having sort of got out all the ones I've built, these there are so many of the farm kits. You're going to need an enormous farm to use all of these models, unless of course we could find alternative uses for them. Okay, that's the update on the back scenes. And the next stage is to begin to seriously look at the stations, I think, get platforms in place and work at that before we then move on to the rest of the scenery. There we go, more updates later. Bye. Just realised that I forgot to mention that this piece has been left blank and the back scene's all a bit higgledy-piggledy because I'm going to build a tunnel over the top of the branch line in this corner. I'm not quite sure how high it will reach, but it will come up towards that village there, and the buildings on the top of the tunnel will blend into the village.